take cooking lessons from someone whose first recipe was shark repellent made to taste like dead sharks? Today would have been her 109th birthday. Julia McWilliams wanted to be a writer when she graduated from Smith. She started as an ad writer for a furniture store, but knowing that our country was at war at the time, she felt a deep sense of duty to help. She remembered, everybody I knew was either in the Army or the Navy or down in Washington, so that's where I went, but the Army and Navy rejected me for being too tall. So she joined the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor of today's CIA. She hoped to be a spy, but ended up in a division that was trying to make shark repellent for the Navy. Her first recipe was mixed up together in a bathtub. Her work with the OSS gave her opportunities to travel. She was first sent to Sri Lanka, where she met her husband, Paul Child. And from there, they posted to Paris, where she fell in love with French food. But she wasn't able to cook the food that she loved, admitting that she was a real disaster in the kitchen. So at age 32, she started at the top, taking cooking lessons at Le Cordon Bleu. Other postings across Europe in Bonn, Oslo, and Marseille further expanded her culinary repertoire. She co-authored her first cookbook at the age of 49, reminding all of us that you're never too old to start something new, to invest in something you love, like comfort food. Julia Child was known for her distinctive voice and her willingness to make a mess while sharing cooking instructions with us all. She had some great lessons for cooking and for life. She said, always remember, if you're alone in the kitchen and you drop the lamb, you can always just pick it up. Who's going to know? She said, always start out with a larger pot than what you think you need, and a party without cake is really just a meeting. She also said this, reminding me of the woman in today's scripture, I think every woman should own a blowtorch. Let's now hear from Julia directly.
Hi, I'm Julia Child. I'm doing a very special meal and cooking it just the way Phil has requested.
Just the way I requested? Thank you, Julia. Let us feast on the word that we are offered today. Listen to this double portion of comfort food as we hear the good news from Mark chapter 7, verses 24 to 37. From there he set out and went away to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know he was there. Yet he could not escape notice, but a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him, and she came and bowed down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile of Syrophoenician origin. She begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. He said to her, let the children be fed first, for it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. But she answered him, sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he said to her, for saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. So she went home, found the child lying on the bed, and the demon gone. Then he returned from the region of Tyre and went by way of Sidon toward the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. They brought to him a deaf man who had an impediment in his speech, and they begged him to lay his hands on him. He took him aside in private, away from the crowd, and put his fingers into his ears and spat on his tongue. And he looked up to heaven, he sighed and said, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. And immediately his ears were opened, his tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. Then Jesus ordered them to tell no one, but the more he ordered them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. They were astounded beyond measure, saying, he has done everything well. He even makes the deaf to hear and the mute to speak. This is the good news according to the Gospel of Mark. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for these stories of healing. May we be part of your healing work in the days ahead. Amen. Jesus had just had a confrontation with the Pharisees. They were holding on to their human tradition about ritual hand washing, and Jesus was calling them to follow the commandments of God. Adam Mowbray helped me last week. I saw him between services and he said, it's either pride or purpose, Phil. And I said, pride or purpose, Adam? What do you mean? He said, if you're holding on to a tradition out of pride, you probably need to let it go. If out of purpose, it's most likely worth holding on to. Do we hold on to things because of our pride or their purpose? Jesus told the Pharisees to swallow their pride, to let go of their ideas about what they thought were clean and unclean, telling them to be more careful about what came out of them than what went into them. And after this tete-a-tete with the Pharisees, Jesus needed to get away. Have you been there? Jesus is ready for vacation, tired of fighting about technicalities, so he heads to the beach near the Mediterranean coastal town of Tyre in what is modern-day Lebanon. Jesus travels beyond the borders of his home country to get away. You ever just wanted to get away from it all? Find a little peace and quiet, a little R&R? Jesus entered a house, and the text says this: he did not want anyone to know he was there. He's hanging out in a beach house on 30A, trying to escape notice. Now, Julia Child said this: if everything doesn't happen quite the way you like, it doesn't make too much difference because you can fix it. And now that may be true in cooking, but that is not always true in the rest of our lives. There are things we cannot seem to fix on our own. Enter a mother who has a mess in her kitchen that she cannot seem to fix. This mother must have tried everything. Something was possessing her daughter and she couldn't fix it. She could not relieve her daughter's torment. She was so worried about her child. And many of us have been there, worrying about a child and whatever type of unclean spirit seemed to possess them that day. I know some of us have seen some unclean spirits in our children this week when they realize that school is starting back. But seriously, when a child is not well, it can be all-consuming for a parent and others who love and care for that child. This mother has heard about Jesus, who was said to have the power to heal, and his cover is blown, and she doesn't care if he's on vacation or not. She swallows her pride and goes to the door and knocks loudly. Anybody home? No, go away. But she keeps knocking, and finally someone comes to the door, and once she gets her foot in the door, there is no stopping this bulldog of a mom. One mom was trying to teach her child about persistence. She said, "You've heard about Thomas Edison, right? He didn't quit. You've heard about Abraham Lincoln. He didn't quit. You've heard about Mother Teresa. She didn't quit. You've heard about Isidore Pringle." And the child said, "Who is Isidore Pringle?" And the mom said, "That's right. The reason you've never heard about Isidore Pringle was he quit." This desperate mother humbly bows down before Jesus. I imagine her laying out across the threshold, saying, "You can't shut me out." And she begs him, "Please, please, please, cleanse my daughter. We have a mess and I can't fix it." Now, this was not the ideal moment to confront Jesus. He was trying to recharge, to get a little time away, because what he says next is not very comforting. In fact, this is part of the passage that might leave a bad taste in your mouth. Jesus looks at this mother and does not speak to her in a way that we might expect. He uses a phrase that could imply she and her daughter are less than human. The response is not what we expect from Jesus. "Syrophoenician woman, stay away from me. Syrophoenician woman, won't you let me be? Don't come hanging round my door. I don't want to see your face no more. I got more important things to do." Jesus emphatically states, let the children be fed first. It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. Ouch. Maybe he was just tired. Over the years, biblical scholars and preachers have gone to great lengths to soften Jesus' response. He was rude to her because he was trying to test her faith. That's why he calls her a dog. Or he winks at her and he says this in front of his disciples to try and explore and explode their prejudice. Or it was a common phrase used in those days to refer to people of that region. Now that's the one that makes sense to me. Calling people from a certain area dogs, but the harshness of his words is still there. These words are hard to explain away. Jesus said to her, "Let the children be fed first," implying the Hebrew children, the chosen ones of Israel, are his first mission, his first priority. For it's not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Ouch again. Saying, "Wait your turn, ma'am. It's not your time yet." Like he told his mother at the wedding at Cana of Galilee, "Woman, my hour has not yet come." Any way you slice it, he basically calls her and her little daughter dogs. Well, the Greek is literally little dogs, or we might say puppies, which could soften it a bit. As David Melton said the other day, it's like Jesus is saying, bless your little hearts. But it's really not what we expect our Jesus to say. Imagine calling a woman and her daughter my little dogs even today, or telling someone they had puppy breath. That would not go well. People listening would have clearly heard this as an insult to a whole group of people. Jesus calls her a dog, an unclean animal. And as any Georgia Tech fans seem to know, dog can be a derogatory term. Well, Irv Morris corrected me on that this week. He said, yes, when it's spelled D-O-G, it can be derogatory, but when it's spelled D-A-W-G, it is never derogatory. This bulldog mother offers a faithful response in the face of rejection. She persists. She merely offers an extension of Jesus' own logic, using a term of respect for him and perhaps even worship. Lord, Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. You got to hand it to her. She seems to be the only person in the whole Gospel of Mark to win an argument with Jesus. This mother holds on to Jesus with the tenacity of a bulldog and will not let go. And I think in that moment, Jesus sees Israel in this outsider. You remember the story. Jacob wrestles with an angel all night saying, I won't let you go until you bless me. And Jacob is given a new name, Israel. He goes from seeing her as other to seeing her as Israel, one who won't let go. This bowing, begging bulldog of a woman is holding on to Jesus like her daughter's life depends on it, because it does. I won't let go until you bless me. And the next thing Jesus says is, for saying that, you may go. Your daughter is no longer disturbed. Everybody needs someone who's willing to go to bat for them, to advocate on their behalf, like this insistent bulldog mom, wanting her child to be cleansed of what was eating away at the girl's soul. It's like a priest in Brazil who is advocating for dogs. Betty Whitley told me about Padre Gomez, who always has a stray dog join him at the altar through Mass every Sunday in order for the entire congregation to have a chance to adopt these once stray dogs. Padre Gomez hopes that his actions will raise awareness and inspire others around him to care, slowly making the world a better place. He said, caring for animals and nature as a whole is a great gesture of love. We need to develop the perspective of compassion, for there's too much violence, too much aggression, and too much accusation in the world today. Compassion is our only remedy. Everyone needs someone who is willing to go to bat for them, to advocate on their behalf, like this insistent bulldog mom, wanting her child to be cleansed of what was eating away at her soul. And then we see the real faith of this mother. It's when she obeys Jesus' command to go. After she's been blessed, she lets him go. And she doesn't drag Jesus home to be sure her daughter is okay. She leaves with the great faith that what he has said he has done is true. And the mother goes home and finds her daughter lying in a bed, and whatever had possessed her is gone. We all need someone who will go to Jesus on our behalf when we feel unclean or are possessed by things other than the Spirit of God. There are days when we're the child in need of healing, and there are other days when we are the mother crying out on behalf of the one in need. Come on, Jesus, all we need is a crumb. Could you just spare that? If I just had a crumb. I went to lunch the other day with Jim Kilborn from our church at Brooklyn Cafe, and at the end of the meal, we split a key lime pie for dessert. My goodness, that was good. All we left on the plate were delicious crumbs, but like Julia Child's recipe, even the crumbs were worth eating. This tenacious woman knew only a crumb of Jesus' power would be enough, just a taste. Jesus was convinced that not only are no foods unclean, but no people are unclean. And this is revealed during an encounter with a woman from another culture who challenges Jesus to expand his ministry to people that were not like him. And that is what travel does, doesn't it? It expands our view of the world and can help us to make more room at our tables. Jesus travels beyond the boundaries of Israel, and with this encounter, the good news expands. Several years ago, Elizabeth and I had the chance to travel on a Rick Steves tour, and I must confess, I have a tendency to overpack. I might overpack my suitcase, I might overpack my day, I might overpack my plate, and yes, you say, I overpack my sermons. Any other overpackers need to make a confession today? But on this trip, we were required to unburden ourselves of excess baggage, things that were weighing us down, things that distracted us, and to take just enough. We did 19 days with one little rollerboard each, and we figured it out. Rick Steves' philosophy of travel states that travel is intensified living, and he encourages people to do it with less. In many ways, taking more and spending more money only builds a thicker wall between you and what you really came to see. He suggests a tight budget forces you to travel close to the ground, meeting and communicating with the people. I recently discovered a great series of websites that offer you the chance to eat with the locals wherever you travel, smartly titled Eat With Locals, and a different kind of travel. Rick Steves goes on to say, if you don't enjoy a place, maybe you don't know enough about it. Seek the truth, recognize the tourist traps, give a culture the benefit of your open mind. See things as different but not better or worse. Any culture has much to share. If something's not to your liking, he says change your liking. Travel can make you a happier person as well as a citizen of the world. For our beautiful earth is home to over 7 billion people who are equally important to God. It's humbling to travel. It helps you to understand and appreciate different cultures, for travel can change us. Jesus was on the move throughout the Gospel of Mark, and in these passages, we see the difference that travel makes. It broadens perspectives and teaches new ways to measure the quality of life. Many travelers toss aside their hometown blinders, and they bring home the prized souvenirs of different cultures that they knit into their lives from then on. Traveling outside Israel changes the ministry of Jesus' followers. For after this trip to Tyre, his traveling continues down to the Decapolis. Well, more about that next week. On the next leg of his journey, there's a second helping of comfort food. Jesus meets more people who've heard of his power. This rambling wreck of folks are concerned about the architecture and engineering of a deaf man with a speech impediment. They intercede for him. Just like the bulldog mom, they also beg. They beg for Jesus' help. I wonder, is there someone in your life today that you might want to beg for Jesus to help? It's an almost comical scene as Jesus takes the deaf man to the side, out of the public view, and like a good Georgia Tech engineer, he goes through all the steps one at a time to bring about healing to this man. It's quite a lengthy process. Jesus sticks his fingers in the man's ears. He spits on his fingers. He touches the man's tongue. He looks up to heaven. He sighs. He speaks a word in Aramaic, Ephatha, be opened. And the man can then hear and talk plainly. After that long distance exorcism of a little girl, this healing could not be any more hands-on, and he tells them not to tell anyone. We too can be part of Jesus' healing ministry by advocating for those who are struggling with their own demons, by interceding for those who cannot speak for themselves, and sharing at least our crumbs, if not our whole meals. In recent days, I stumbled across the show, What Would You Do? Anybody seen this on ABC? They send out actors to portray ethical dilemmas in places like grocery stores and restaurants. One show finds a family out for their son's birthday dinner. The mother cannot afford a full meal for each of her kids, but they want to celebrate his birthday, so they go to a Mexican restaurant and split one single quesadilla. Take a minute to watch this as the scene unfolds.
Today, we're in Louisiana, a state with one of the highest percentages of people living below the poverty line. Limited financial resources have left many families struggling from meal to meal. It's called food insecurity, and the Department of Agriculture defines it as a lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy life. 18% of households in Louisiana are affected by food insecurity.
Can we at least get cake?
If you witness this poor family
There's just not enough.
struggling to make ends meet,
But Mom, it's its birthday.
How about you can take my slice of quesadilla?
Aren't you hungry too?
I'm okay. Just eat up.
What would you do? We've stationed our hidden cameras at La Coretta in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. And our mom has been saving up to treat her kids to a birthday meal.
Hi guys. Are you ready to order?
Yes. One quesadilla?
One quesadilla, and for the kids?
That's for all of us. Thank you.
When our daughter begins to badmouth the budget,
I don't want to split my meal. It's not fair.
it catches the attention of this family.
This is all Mommy can afford right now, okay?
I don't want to split my meal.
They listen discreetly from their table.
If we had to split the quesadilla, can we at least get cake?
Yeah.
No, honey. It's a treat enough that we're out here together for your brother's birthday, okay?
Okay.
But when our kids step away,
Oh, here we go. Something's happening here. Something's happening.
this mother's heart is too big for her not to share.
Don't cry, sweetheart. Don't cry. They don't understand. I'm gonna pay for y'all dinner, okay? You don't have to do that. I know that. Don't worry about it. You stop crying. I can get the cake. It's hard enough in the world. You order up dinner. You let them order their food. You buy them the cake they want. You act like it was good, okay?
This is amazing. This is amazing.
I want to tell my kids what you did. No. You let it be you. So you just put a smile back on your face before they come out? Order your dinner? You eat. You eat.
And when our kids learn the good news,
You guys, I decided we need the quesadilla and the cake.
That's so good. Yay.
their smiles are the only thanks this mother and daughter need.
Thank you so much, Mom.
Yes.
And as the tears begin to flow, we decide to let them know how thankful we truly are.
Hello there.
Hi.
This is part of a TV show called What Would You Do?
Oh, good heavens. You're gonna be kidding me.
No.
I thought it was your birthday.
You didn't want her to tell the kids.
No, because it wasn't, Mom needed to feel special that she was doing it for her children. Makes me feel good to have made them feel good.
Have you been through some tough times?
We lived through Katrina. So yes, we lost everything. We lost our home, and we have people who helped us tremendously. When people give to you, you give back to people.
Whenever someone is in need of healing, they need someone who will advocate for them, someone who will intercede for them. One of my heroes in this church is Rhonda Keene. Her husband Donald was recently in the hospital, and Donald's condition does not allow him to ask for what he needs. So Rhonda argued to be in the room with him in that hospital. She pleaded, and even in the midst of current protocols, she persevered. They finally let her stay with him in the room at the hospital, and we're glad he's at home now. People who don't take no for an answer like Rhonda, whether they be a bulldog mom or a rambling wreck of intercessors, people who are willing to take the crumbs and make the best of them, inspire us and expand our ministries. Jesus, I'm grateful for the crumbs you've shared with me. Help us all to be part of your healing work. Are you ready and willing to share your crumbs with a hurting world? Amen.